It's time for us to talk about some sparkly fucking vampires. I'm just kidding. We're not doing that. If you want me to do that, we could. But I don't review movies, and you probably wouldn't want me to do that. Anyways, Cover Killer Nation, we're here to talk about the new Veil of Maya album, which is entitled Eclipse, hence the sparkly vampire reference, of course. Now, this is a band that has kind of gotten a fan base throughout the past couple of years, especially with their last album, ID, which was released 2 years ago, and actually made it to #1 on the U.S. Heat Seekers chart on the Billboard Top 200 or Top Heat Seekers, whatever the hell you want to call it. It's an album that gained a lot of acclaim. It's gained them a fan base, and now we have their follow-up Eclipse, which comes about 2 years later. And this is also a band that kind of has a polarizing fan base in the fact that on one side you have the really hardcore, very, very die-hard fans of this band that really, eat, sleep, live, and die Veil of Maya. And then at the same time, there's also the other side, and these are the people that are not too big of a fan of this band, or maybe don't give them any sort of respect because they are sometimes lumped into the deathcore genre whenever you really should give them a little bit more of a technical edge, technical deathcore, or even progressive deathcore, so to speak, because they have a lot of the tendencies to kind of jump around and add elements from this very, very small myriad of genres that are pretty close in category, but sometimes whenever it comes to execution, there's a very large window of diversity. Now on Eclipse, there's definitely a polarizing element on there as well. There are some songs where they are very focused on the breakdowns, the more deathcore elements of their sound do make a grand entrance, so to speak. It's something that I hear a lot on the first part of the record. But then it seems as this album opens up and starts to get to its middle and its last parts, its last rites, so to speak. The whole entire body of work starts to open up a little bit, and you get to hear a lot more of the progressive elements. You get to hear a lot more of the technical side, and there are just some really, really good moments on this album that remind me of why I fell in love with the Discovery by Born of Osiris last year. The fact that they do kind of embrace this whole genre that does include, these almost genty style breakdowns, but at the same time they're able to do it with a little bit more of distinction and a little bit more of a prowess, so to speak. These are interesting breakdowns. They're not necessarily there just for the sake of having a breakdown. These have a lot of character to them, not to mention everything that embodies them and surrounds them certainly has merit, not to mention is a lot more complex and difficult than bands that I've reviewed in the past that I have not found as favorable, such as Attack Attack, which basically just is one gigantic stupid breakdown for no fucking reason. Now, what would I say about an album like this as far as how I feel? And I think the best way to describe this is that this is a band that for me still, I feel, has not quite reached its full potential, which for some of you out there might seem like a scary thought. A lot of you out there might find this band to be the top of the top. And so the idea that they've not yet reached their full potential might seem almost like an insult or a cut. But in reality, this is a good thing. This is something where, as their career progresses, so long as they follow on this path that I've noticed throughout the progression from ID to Eclipse, I think that this is a band that could really improve a lot more and really have a breakout album such as the Discovery did last year for Born of Osiris, and just really wow a lot of people, both within the fan base of the genre, and then also wow a lot of people on the outside. Now, some of you might argue, well, Veil of Maya has already kind of done that. Well, I mean on a very, very large scale. Like, this is a band that could potentially lead the forefront of a lot of crossover, and crossover is something that is going to be the most important part of their success, considering they're in a genre right now that is semi-loved but also semi-hated. There's a real polarization there, and in order to really break out and become, the stars of tomorrow, you have to almost make those haters just kind of separate themselves from their hate for the cookie-cutter bands and find you to be somewhat original and really unique. And Veil of Maya has that potential, and honestly for me, it's kind of worked because, let's face it, the one thing I've always said about deathcore that really just irritates me is the fact that there's not a lot of dynamisty there, and there's not a lot of experimentation. There's not a lot of creativity in a lot of deathcore, and these are mostly in just a cookie cutter bands as opposed to the ones that actually make the effort. Veil of Maya is showing a lot of experimentation. They're showing the effort to kind of go outside of their comfort zone and kind of go out on the limb a little bit. And that's what I enjoyed about Eclipse. I kind of went into this album kind of thinking to myself, am I really going to enjoy this? It's deathcore, you know. It's progressive deathcore, it's technical deathcore, you know. I mean, maybe it'll be this year's The Discovery. And it doesn't really quite live up to that potential. However, it's still a damn good album. It's something that I would definitely give the score of a 7.75 to an 8 for. And the one thing about this record is that if you blink, you miss it. This is under 30 minutes in length, and I think that works to this album's advantage. I believe that there are some albums out there in genres that maybe have that polarizing base where length really is the enemy. It's something where it's sort of abuses a listener to a certain degree. It creates a very rough atmosphere for them to complete an album, and with an album like this where it's not even 30 minutes, it's a listen that you can get through, and if you weren't really a big fan of it, you're not wasting a lot of time. But if you're a fan of it, you know, obviously your number one reaction is going to be, damn, that's it, I want more. So, there you have it. Veil of Maya's Eclipse. No sparkly vampires here, but it's kind of a bedazzled sleeper pick for Album of the Year, potentially this year. I'm not going to say it's going to be number one, but it might make the list. You never know. Now, as a bullshit bonus for this video, I want to give you some information that is probably going to be very important for some of you, and that's the fact that if you're in America, the FYEs of the nation are currently running a metal sale. March is Metal Month at FYE, and so if you have a local store, definitely check it out. There's a lot of great titles that are being on sale right now for $7.99, including the most recent Enslaved record that was my 2010 Album of the Year. The new one from Warbringers and Skeleton Witch, The New Arch Enemy, Animals as Leaders, just to name a few. There are a lot of great titles that are a part of this program, and another thing that I will also tell you guys, which is kind of coupled with the whole buy the albums thing, support the artists, is the fact that with most metal releases at the store, you're going to find a nice price on it. And I know that I sound like I'm being a company boy. I know I sound like I have FYE's dick shoved so far up my ass that I'm talking words that are coming out of their lips. But it's just honestly the reality of it. It's the fact that most albums, even if they are just regular priced at the store, are going to be at around 12 bucks, as opposed to an album by a pop artist that's going to be starting off at 16, or a rap artist that could go as high as 20. Metal is just really a genre that is, I guess you could say there's a certain level of respect involved with that as far as pricing is concerned. And not to mention, they're constantly running these $7.99 deals every couple of months. So they're definitely pushing this stuff. And if you have an FYE in your area and you happen to be a metal fan, definitely scope out the catalogs that they have for this price, because it's really an event that you don't want to miss. It's a good way to pick up albums that perhaps you missed on release day, such as what I just did the other day. Whenever I picked up the new Warbringer, I picked up the Animals as Leaders that came out a couple of months ago that I had reserved for 1,000,001 years, and two other records that I'm neglecting right now. The Black Dahlia Murders Nocturnal, I believe, was one of them, and there's another that is slipping my mind right now. I think it's the new Skeleton Witch. But yeah, this is a great deal, and something that you should definitely check out. And also check out Veil of Maya's Eclipse, which is in stores today. So, there you go. 2 reasons to go to your local record store and check things out today or tomorrow, whenever you view this video. Go right now. Get in your car. Don't watch the end of this video, because it's over. Fuck you. Have a nice day.